We could just hire Joe Rogan to help us out with this. He's probably got it back.
It's coming up in just a second.
Cool. I just posted to Facebook Dial Podcast group that we are going live eventually. I mean, not eventually, but like to come check us out if they're interested.
Let's see. Oh, yeah.
Yep, just about there, guys. 1 second. I gotta.
That was an impressive recovery. That was only 30 seconds late on your part.
Here we go. Got a lot of things connected to our stream right now, hence snow day and kids consuming massive amounts of bandwidth here. So I gotta kick them off. What's wrong, Matt? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that, Lance.
Yeah.
This is absurd. You want to take a peek outside, you can see out of the corner right there. It's, massive amounts of snow.
Snowpocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's. It should be popping up here in just a second, is it not?
It's basically a snow day for light levels of rain.
Tantalizing stuff here, guys.
Don't worry. Oh, really? Okay.
I'm gonna have some upset kids. Let's see.
We'll deal with that now.
Yeah, be banging on the door. Be on the podcast in a few minutes. All right. Well, I think it's time to get started, guys. Let me actually record so we get something to post later on. Hang in there, folks. We're about ready to start. Okay, we are recording. Audio looks good.
Ooh.
This is how we roll here. All right. Hi, welcome to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Duren, and today I'm here with... Oh, where is he at? Lance, you're not sitting at the table. Where are you at? Lance, where are you?
No. Today's Evan Romance, Lance. Get out of here.
I'm just totally messing with you, dude.
Oh, you're in Vegas. I didn't know you were in Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
I was going to guess Idaho again. I was just going with Idaho.
All right, I'll stop messing around. Also here with Evan Price.
How's it going?
And last but not least, Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? How are you guys doing?
Doing well. All right, let's start a back pedal. Evan, let's get started with you, bud.
Back pedal. Now it is cold, so I feel like we are all doing a lot of indoor training the last 7 days. I feel like everyone is basically all indoor training.
Here's the thing. I feel like I was doing a lot of indoor training, but now we have a real reason to do indoor training.
Oh,
because it is cold. Like I was like, even Saturday, it was perfectly reasonable. I could have gone outside biking. It was fine. Yeah. And I was like, I went inside and just bike.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a real reason to. But.
So my mother this last week turned 60 years old.
Oh, I saw that.
She went on, they didn't quite make it 60K, but they were doing a 60K run for her birthday. And I called her and was complaining about how cold it was here. And then I had to check myself and realize that she ran through, they did a trail run through just snow and ice. We're talking Midwest, just.
Was it below zero?
Oh yeah, it's freezing out there. And I'm sitting here it's 43. It's a little bit chilly outside. I think I'm gonna run the treadmill. That was how soft I was on those days. But yeah, she turned 60 years old, which is awesome. Her birthday is on Groundhog's Day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it was just kind of cool to reflect on. She still acts like she's in her 40s, so that's pretty cool. And she's faster now than she was 8 to 10 years ago. She's actually significantly faster now than she was.
Is she training for anything in particular?
Yeah, she's got Ironman Texas coming up this year. I think she may do Ironman Louisville again.
Jeez.
She'll probably do a couple ultras.
Will she go to Hawaii? She's pretty good, right?
She's going into a new age group, so yeah. The problem for her is that she's got this group of women. She's
Yeah.
been racing for a long time, and they're all just getting older together,
Yeah.
but getting faster.
I met.
So it's like
That's an awesome
none,
paradigm.
none of them are slowing down. They're all getting
Yeah.
faster, and it's like it's because people are always like, oh, well, just wait till you get to the next age group, and then you're definitely qualifying for.
Right.
It's like the problem
Nope.
is that
It's the
age
same
group's,
group.
yeah, it's the same group of people.
Yeah, I met an older lady like after Whistler, and I don't remember exactly how old she was, but about 60, and it was just like, yep, same 3 girls,
Yep.
and it's like,
Killing it
and
year after year.
they they don't have a ton of spots. Like there are a lot of like one spot for
Yeah.
their age group, so
Yeah.
it's
and none of
it's
them are
crazy.
dropping off, which is kind of cool to think. Like,
That's cool.
it's like over a decade, like these people are aging together and just racing and pushing each other. It's a really cool idea, but
Keeps you young, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
it is.
it is kind of a
It's
cool
cool.
part of the sport. Yeah, yeah. Outside of that, had a really big week of training.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because the last time we chatted on the podcast, you had a down week because you were
Mhm.
kind of sick a little
Yeah.
bit, and
Yeah,
Were you-
immune system recovered really well and hit a 20K swim week,
did you?
12-hour bike, and a 60 and change on the run, 64 on the run, I think.
What's
Ouch.
total hours? 20.
25, 26,
Whoa.
something like that.
Oh my god!
This week will be
Yeah.
bigger. This week will be close to 30. Like,
What?
hopefully.
Yeah,
It's a big week.
we've got a good topic today, and
Yes.
I am gonna have fun asking you some questions,
I'm
my
gonna
friend.
hold off like all of me talking about that till later because
Yeah.
we'll figure out what I'm doing
Sweet.
wrong.
Right on.
But yeah,
All right, well, Lance, I'll come back to you in just a second because I would normally go to you next, but I have a sneaking suspicion you've got bigger and better tales to tell than all of us. So,
there's one very big thing that Lance has to share.
Yeah, that's
Matt,
right.
backpedal for us.
I don't know. I had a big week for me, which, anytime you're like anywhere close to half of what Evan does, like that's an awesome week. I hit almost 15 again. Last week was a little bit bigger, and a lot of that's just like how much biking you get in, because biking adds a lot of volume.
Mhm.
But my one piece of good news is that this is another record-breaking swim week for me as far as amount of volume. So this is, like basically 4 weeks or so in a row of basically just kind of like chipping away at like highest swim volume I've ever done. And I swam more than Evan. I swam.
The results are there. Like, I
Wow.
mean, when we're swimming together, I think the problem for you and me is we don't get to see our improvement because
Right.
we compare it to Nate.
Yeah.
This is our problem. Is we're comparing it to a guy who is very, very fast, very
Yes.
very fast in the pool.
Yeah. But the other thing I'm more curious about is for us, like, that's great. You're swimming great in a pool and blah, blah, blah. But, like, you have to be able to swim open water.
Yeah.
And so I really don't know if any of this work is going to pay off until, whatever. Like, probably we might be able to figure some stuff out in, like,
Fall.
April or May at the earliest.
Yeah.
We might be able to see if some of this training is working, and I know the running stuff works. I know this, biking stuff works. It's just like the swimming. It can be a
Yeah.
mixed bag for sure.
Yeah.
But I hit 21,000 yards, basically a little over that, and I swam 6 days for the week as opposed to 5. Just a good solid week, and then I don't remember exactly. I didn't bike a ton. I had I think a 60-mile indoor bike ride Saturday.
Yeah, so, no. It was not 60. It was 59.99.
Yes, 59 point.
No.
Yeah, it's 59.99 mile bike ride on Saturday indoors, and I thought I'd be fine because I did longer the week before and felt fine the next day. But on my Sunday long run, which is I always do a Sunday long run, I got out there and my quads just felt trashed. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but I went a little bit slower on my long run. Still got an 11-mile long run in. Achilles and things like that are feeling good. Maybe going a little bit slower will help me kind of recover a little bit faster so that I can kind of turn around and do some additional speed work and things like that this week as far as running goes. So yeah, it was a good week. I'll probably push one more week. I'll probably have one more harsh week. Hopefully similar hours and things like that. And then I'll probably ease up a little bit because I'll not like necessarily taper, just kind of have a rest week kind of prior to our training camp, which I think is 2 weeks away.
Yeah, we'll be heading out in under 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Oh, boy.
It's coming quick.
It is
Yeah.
on its. That's crazy to think that's already like 2 weeks away. I remember
less than well. It was 2 weeks this past Saturday.
I remember
so.
when you started your block for like your block of training for this specific training camp.
And of course, I got
you guys are going to like a tour. It's like a grand tour. This is what this feels like.
It does. That's what. Yeah, it definitely feels like kind of that. But Evan and I swam just now. We always come from the pool here, and I feel like that's working really well.
This is why we look so damp.
Yeah, and like we've had raccoon eyes from the goggles. But Evan swam 5,000 meters, and I swam just under that. So big, another big day in the pool. Probably the biggest I've had in a while. I did do one 5,000 meter swim, but for the most part, like that's the longest swim that we've done.
Yeah.
So good day so far.
Nice.
Jake, how about you?
This past week for me was pretty boring. I just had a recovery week. I don't know. It's just one of those things that I was really needing it, and I wanted to get to this week because I wanted to. We'll get into this a little bit more later, but I wanted to be ready for training camp like Matt. But I don't want to put it too close to training camp because sometimes you can have kind of a negative effect.
This will go well into the recovery conversation too.
Yeah. So, but did go to the doctor last week, which was kind of nice. I was cleared to start doing some workout at Saddle. So
did they check like range of motion, or what are they looking at?
Jake had a I'll let Jake tell us, but it was an interesting week.
It was a weird thing. I think I talked about this maybe last week that I had a pop in my shoulder, some scar tissue I think broke loose, and I got a little bit more range of motion back, which was nice. But went into the doc and the same PA who checked me out last time, who told me, "Man, your shoulder sucks." It's still the funniest thing, and I reminded her of that as well. And she's like, "Man, your shoulder sucks a lot less." So it still sucks. Don't get me wrong; it's not perfect. It still has a long ways to go and a lot of recovery to do, but it's getting less and less.
I love when she went to test your strength. Jake had been talking about this for a couple weeks. How he was preparing for this he's kind of shoving his elbow out to the side, strengthening, and had that abduction strengthening, and he gave her a little surprise.
Yeah, I gave her a little more fling than she was waiting for. But it was kind of funny. She actually laughed about that. She's like, "Wow, that's awesome." She's like, "You about threw me through the wall, but that's awesome." But yeah, that was fun. I'm kind of excited to start working on some sprint protocol and some climbing. That's going to start working its way in, and it can come at a better time because we're going to be going to training camp, and that's going to be highly necessary because we're going to do a lot of climbing.
I think your shoulder just knew that training camp was coming up, and it was ready to gain that range of motion. It just wanted to time it right. So.
Yeah. So the only other little cool thing that was fun about this week is I got to ride with Matt outside. We had a nice, very chill, easy. Recovery ride. Just kind of went out.
We had some sun midweek, didn't
we? Yeah, and he and I soaked it up. So
it was one of those things where it's like we knew the rain was coming, and I was like, "Jake, it's gonna rain tomorrow. This is our last chance. Let's just go do something." And it was like super easy hour. I've never had an easy ride with Jake. That's the first time. And,
he twisted my good arm to ride outside, so I'm thankful for that. And for
it was nice.
Payback, I kept it super easy, so kept the watts really low. That was nice. But,
good.
All right, enough of that boringness. Lance. Backpedal, buddy.
And what happened then?
So the people need to there are people that have listened to this podcast all the way since the beginning, and they probably know the consequences.
Oh, this is a big consequence. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Oh, we want to see that.
Is this X-rated here? I mean, come on. Okay.
How did
you go full Brazilian?
Yeah. How high up did they go?
Lots of questions here. Okay, so how high up?
Sacks and cracks. Oh my God.
Oh.
Mid thigh. How high up? Like kind of do. Yeah.
I
Okay.
actually. There's, oh man.
You perfectly timed that, man.
Ooh.
So here's my first question for you. Second question for you is that first night you slipped into the sheets. How did that feel? Give us an idea of that experience.
That's hilarious.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So the waxing, because I've never waxed before. I've always just shaved. I
Right.
mean, does the waxing feel better?
Um,
Oh, is it terrible?
well, so no. So
I thought it'd be a relieving sensation. Oh. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
So I've done both wax and shaving, and
Yeah.
waxing hurts a lot more.
Can you swim the day after waxing?
I don't know because it was before I was a swimmer.
Okay.
But like I've had friends be like, hey, I have the opportunity to go do waxing, for whatever. I've got a big Ironman race coming up. Should I do that? And I always tell them, nope, just shave.
Just shave. Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
Will you shave maintenance now, Lance, or are you just gonna let it grow back?
You better What?
Oh, see,
this
that
is
was
weird, Lance. I don't know.
I'm gonna hold you to that, by the
Wow.
way. Like I'm gonna do a leg check each time you come in.
Well,
but you had pretty fine hair to begin with, right?
Right.
Like not really thick hair. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we may not have Lance piping through all the way to the podcast.
He's recording. It's just not picking up on YouTube for some reason.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So
Okay.
just in case people are,
We're working on it.
We're having this conversation about
Yeah.
Lance's waxing
Yeah.
of his legs. And Lance, I just missed your live broadcast of your Instagram waxing bit, but I caught like some of the replay of it basically, and it was hilarious. It was awesome. Good work for sure. Looked painful.
Oh God.
Oh, I was just gonna say I didn't quite catch the live stream of your leg waxing, but I did catch the replay of the live stream on Instagram, and it was hilarious.
Was Brandy filming that? Like was Brandy?
She's not there. It's all
Oh,
guys.
it's all guys.
But-
Jeez.
But Lake is there.
Oh. Your son got to see you wax your legs.
No. It gets better. Lance pulled one of the strips, like one of the wax strips. I think it was Lake. I think it was Lake, right?
Good job.
And the lady was hilarious. She said something like, "Oh, Lake, I need you for an assistant. You're good at this."
That is
And
so awesome.
she was a good sport for sure.
We got to bring Lake back in to relive that then. Yeah.
Awesome.
Jesse says no son should have to witness that.
Well, at least it wasn't cracks and sacks for his son.
Oh yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah. That would have been a life-changing experience.
Hey, Matt, why don't you give us an update on the weight loss challenge?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So this is I don't know when I chimed in and started harassing our little group here, but I hit 10 pounds under. I hit minus 10.2.
Mm-hmm.
I think like 3 or 4 days
Was
ago.
it Friday? I think it was
I
Friday.
don't remember. It was 3 or 4 days ago. It may have been Thursday or something like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll just try to hold this till Monday because we record our podcast on Monday. For those of you guys that, the podcasts typically come out on Wednesday. And so the concept of this is like, yeah, I hit the 10 pounds under. I definitely went 10 pounds under for sure. Just a little bit more than that. But the next day I was a full pound up.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really holding sub 10. I went, just for hardcore numbers, I mean, I know you guys don't care what I weigh, but I was starting off at 163.2, which was pretty heavy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays helped for sure. And then I think it was about 4 weeks or something like that. I mean, I can pull it up and look exactly at the timeline. But yeah, got down to...
Sorry, we're trying to reconnect with Lance here.
okay.
Lance, come back.
Lance.
Uh-oh. Man, this is a train wreck today.
How's it going? This is cool because
Technological.
this is like even beyond like behind the scenes. This is just like in the scenes.
Yeah.
It's professional.
We could cut this if we need to. Yeah.
No, it's all right. We'll get him. Yeah, just keep cruising. All right, so... hold on. There he is. He's calling me now. Lance.
Contact.
Hey, there he is. All right, folks.
So Lance, I was telling these guys that I hit my numbers, but then the next day I was a pound up, and then I came right back down to even, like a negative 10, negative 10 pounds from the start, and then this morning I'm 2 pounds up from that. So I don't think I've won the competition yet.
But how many days did you hold at, under, or only a pound over?
At least 3.
3? Okay. What was wasn't it 2 consecutive days was what we said last week?
I think you have to, 2 consecutive days, which I didn't hit. I was under, over, under.
See, I still think that 2 out of 3 days with an average being under.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely close. Like, I'm definitely flirting with the victory. And so, Lance...
It'll be over next week.
Yeah. I brought, I think it's like an 8-pack of LaCroix for the winner, which hopefully is me.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I just, kind of keep, at least staying close to this 10 pounds under, whatever, close enough that, we call it victory by next week.
Matt kind of called a shot on this one, too. I remember you saying that you were going to win this contest.
Oh, yeah. I said it like 8 times.
Yeah.
I was like, I will win this. But that's just me being a jerk. But but yeah, so I'm a couple pounds up right now, and then I know how it goes. I think it's just hard because Lance and I both run into this issue where it's like Sunday is a hard day to, even though I do a long run, it's still like you do a long run in the morning and you have all day to just kind of like snack and eat and stuff like that. And,
oh my gosh,
yeah. And then sometimes during the week you're like busy with other things and you forget to eat or whatever it is. But yeah, maybe next week we could talk about, how we're attacking weight loss stuff is maybe potentially one of the topics or something like that, and we could kind of go over some of this stuff.
Kind of like cap off the challenge, just to
Cap
give
off the
like,
challenge.
okay, like what's a reasonable season-long way to approach this without
without trying to race yourself down 10 pounds.
without LaCroix on the line, yeah.
Without LaCroix.
LaCroix and respect on the line.
Nice. Lance, are you having any good luck with your weight loss stuff? I know that you were down, then you went back up, and then got back on the horse and were down again. Did you lose even more, or is the Las Vegas getting to you?
Yeah. Super Bowl party kills you.
Yeah, so you're telling me that your hair loss didn't lose like 5%. I was assuming you'd shave your legs and be 20 pounds down.
No, I didn't lose 20 pounds by shaving my legs. That didn't help.
That was my ace in the pocket there.
Lance, you were 2 pounds up after your sea voyage.
Correct.
So does that mean you're down 7 since that trip?
I'm down 7 since the trip. Correct.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm gonna, go further than that.
Yeah. For this contest, this could not have been more ill-timed for Lance.
Yeah.
Like, Lance goes on a boat, then to Vegas, Super Bowl. Yeah. That's
Next year, I say we just kind of start it up, kind of like right after the new year or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, Lance, you just have to schedule all of your vacations accordingly.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have much to add to this conversation. I'm just freaking stuck. I'm stuck. Just stuck.
Yeah,
but the body composition is changing. Yay, good stuff. I always wait. Dang it.
Well, I think the most important thing is like body fat percentage too, right? Where it's like if you're gaining muscle, you're going to use that muscle in a race. Like
I think it's just fitness. Fitness is the most. If you realize that your fitness is getting better and the numbers are improving and you're feeling good, I think that's all that really matters at the end of the day. The weight will naturally over a long time come down, but
maybe.
Yeah, Matt's natural. And this is what I mean, Matt. What did you race at back when you were in college?
It's so hard to remember way back then. I was able to do a very large block of mileage, 100+ mile weeks at 145.
Jeez.
And then usually actually it was weird if I did speed work and things like that, and kind of was a little bit careful about what I was eating. I would get down to 140, and I could definitely go lighter than that, like 139, 137 and stuff like that. That was getting pretty light, but I raced really well at 145.
Okay.
So yeah, and then basically what is a little bit unfair with this competition is I know that I will race at 150 or under for Whistler, even if like I'm 10 pounds down from 163. That's still not race weight. This race weight challenge here is definitely, the numbers are in my favor because I know I will hit 150 eventually. It's just a matter of like when I'll hit it. So gotta climb mountains basically.
There you go. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. So all right, let us get started with our first topic today. We are going to run through all things recovery. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. We're getting ready for seasons. We've been doing a lot of training this past winter. A lot of heavy training coming from some of the people sitting at the table and a little less from some of the others. Maybe that's why they're not winning weight competitions. Anyhow, let's talk about recovery, and I'm going to throw that out there, and I'm going to lean on Evan a little heavily right here. I want you to kind of talk about, real quick, if you don't mind, what's going on from a physiological standpoint, why our bodies start to accumulate all of this stress and this load, and then why it is that we can have a recovery phase. Yeah, so this is where I think, and the cool part of this is, I think that the science is still catching up a little bit to explain a lot of this, because there's massive variability depending on who you're looking at, what their genetic makeup is, what their training history is. So I think these like cookie cutter answers that sometimes, the cool little clickbait articles will give you, is really like misunderstood, I think, and that's where you get. If you ask 10 experienced endurance athletes what's the best recovery formula, you will possibly get 10 completely different answers.
Right.
But what's going on from a physiological level is it goes well beyond, I'll just say like lactate is probably the most used term in this conversation that you'll hear. And basically what lactate is the shuttling system for acidity as your cells work. So as your muscular cells work, whether that's your heart muscle as well, or your leg muscles, your arm muscles while you're swimming, any muscle you want to, point to, there's work that's to be done and energy created.
Through ATP, which all that means, ATP just means there's 3 phosphates, one drops off, you create energy. Now, there's a process that creates acidity, or hydrogen ions during that process. Those hydrogen ions, this is the theory, is that's kind of that burning sensation that you feel as those build up to a certain level. Now, as they build up to a certain level, your best endurance athletes are going to be people who shuttle that.
Right. And very well. This is pretty interesting because some of the newer research was like lactic acid is bad, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it's interesting because like a lot of the newer stuff is like, oh, well, and actually you can have 2 different very elite level endurance athletes that handle lactic acid differently. Yes, but some people can, shuttle that lactic acid and use it as a fuel for ATP, production, which is pretty cool. And
think of it as like your body's own recycling system. You're getting rid of what you can't use, and you're recycling what you can use. So that acidity is what basically breaks down muscle over a certain period of time. Now, there's a really complex physiological process, but just think of it that way. As your acidity levels pick up, you're going to be able, your ticking time bomb of blowing up is getting lower and lower, is getting lower and lower. So you want to be able to shuttle that acidity away. So Matt mentioned there's 2 different types of elite or I'm not even going to say elite, just two different types of people who shuttle or recover in the short term well. This is anecdotally, but the theory out there is that Michael Phelps is considered somebody who shuttles lactate at a level that is unreal. So people have taken measurements of him before, and he had this incredible testing where he was doing 50s, I think. He did a set of 50 again and again. And just so that people know, lactate is measured in millimoles per liter. And there's, if you're over 15, that's working. You're working hard. Yeah. Once you're in the 20s, most human beings wouldn't be able to stand then. Now, your Olympians can hit numbers like 23, 24, 25 and still be able to stand.
But if you're shuttling that lactic acid away, his numbers were low.
Yes. So this is the crazy thing about Phelps.
This is interesting. And then, and I feel like that same, study or article compared another Olympian and opposite numbers, basically.
Exactly. They very similar speeds, efficiency, but Phelps wasn't hitting over 10.
Right. I remember it was like 8 or something.
His system is just dumping down. I mean, he
spectrum in theory is a Lance Armstrong.
Right. That's who the other. It wasn't Lance Armstrong. There's another swimmer that they compared, but I remember thinking that like someone talking about Lance Armstrong and his recovery system wasn't the same, but or his numbers were always very high.
Yes. And we're gonna put the doping conversation to the side now.
Right. So then how do you?
Yeah, his genetic system, because I'm sure he was still doing this at a young age. He was an elite athlete at a young age still.
Yeah.
His system is able to tolerate super high levels of acidity. So here's the question with recovery, is what type of athlete are you? Because a person like Lance, let's say Lance was not doping, that would be somebody in my mind who would need more recovery time after big training blocks. Michael Phelps maybe doesn't, and that's why he's able to tolerate these crazy high loads of training. I mean, you look at how he was training when he was like, what we talking like the London Olympics. I mean, when he was like, I mean, he won gold his entire career, but I think probably London was roughly his best fitness-ish.
Yeah, and there was one where he trained slightly differently, like did more weights, did more kind of like, functional training.
I think it depends on what type of athlete you are.
And that's completely theoretical. This is your guess as to, I mean, this, it's right, because like.
This is all up here.
Yeah,
we're just grabbing
this
ideas.
Is just like, hey, here's.
This could be, like, maybe, like, and I'm sure someone's trying to do a study. My gut feeling is that exercise science is pretty rough as far as how they handle studies and stuff like that compared to, trying to get
pharmaceutical studies
that have to be passed for human consumption. That's just a theory, and I don't know. I think it's cool for us to just to like look at some of these things and say like, this is this one case that was crazy different than the other. They're both super fast. Like, wow, what's going on here? We can take a guess. It's super fun to do that.
I think the cool thing I've heard people do who seem to perform very well is it's what a lot of us are already doing. You track your training through whatever means you want. You can argue all day, is heart rate worth it? Is TSS scores, I know, are another thing that people talk about now quite a bit. But these are all guesstimations of your training load.
Right.
But if you look at that over the years and you say, I seemed to race better when I was recovering this style of way, then just try and reproduce that, You don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. If you're racing well off of certain types of recovery, whether that's a long taper, a short taper, no taper.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just depends on you looking at your history And if you don't have a history,
make one.
Yeah, exactly. That's
try different things and see what works.
Yeah.
You know, it's yeah. I think, you know, it's like the normal kind of expectations is that like we'll all kind of like go into our race and then we'll rest for the week before the race and then we'll race great because we're rested. And it's, you know, and I always thought like, well, I keep having bad races.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, you know, it took a long time before I finally tried doing a little bit less of a taper. And it seemed to work really well for me. Like, and again, you know, I'm thinking like collegiate running where I was running a whole bunch of mileage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then I would, you know, it would sound like a lot of mileage for me to do like 70 miles or something like that. But that was a
recovery week for you at that point.
Yeah, it was a taper, and I felt really good doing that. And so for me, it's just a matter of kind of figuring out these different ways to taper or potentially not taper to have a decent race. So, yeah.
How about you, Lance? You got some something to offer to this?
Well, you know, it's recovery for me has been a challenge because I've just been waking up and, you know, riding every day. And I go through this difficulty of, you know, am I letting myself recover or not? And quite often, it's pretty common for me to get on my bike and for my legs to feel like crap for the first 30 minutes. And after the first 30 minutes, boom, I just, you know, the soreness in my quads and my calves goes away and I'm just rolling. So I've always kind of struggled with recovery, whether I'm really recovered or not. And so I actually decided to try this new piece of technology called the Whoop strap.
Yeah.
You guys heard of it?
I have heard about it, and I'm super curious about it because someone, I don't remember who it was, someone that I respected was like, maybe it was Phil Guyman. He was like, I use this and I just follow this and that's it or something.
Right. So I actually just got it before I left for this trip. So I've only had it on my wrist for like 5 days. And what it is, it's like a heart rate monitor strap that just connects to your wrist and you wear it 24 hours a day. And it records your strain for the day. It records your heart rate all day long, and it records the quality of your sleep. So by figuring out what your heart rate variability is, what your resting heart rate is, and the quality of your sleep, it can give you a percentage idea on whether or not how recovered you are.
Now, Lance, how would you explain heart rate variability to somebody who hasn't trained with heart rate in the past?
Okay, so this is right from their website, how they explain heart rate variability. It's the measure of the naturally occurring irregularity of your heartbeat. Leading exercise physiologists agree that heart rate variability is one of the most useful tools in determining optimal training loads. How high you can get your heart rate and how low your resting heart rate is. And the variability between those two, the higher that number is, the more primed your engine is so that you can take on training load. That's exactly kind of the way I understand it.
It's almost whenever I think about this, because I was into heart rate variability for a little while, it's almost counterintuitive. Because if you have this like regular heartbeat or whatever it is, I think that's like you need recovery, and then when you have the irregular heartbeat, it's like nope, you're good to go. And so you can track heart rate variability, and it's I think pretty unique to each person. And so usually, and this is what I'm curious about, the Whoop strap. It probably needs a solid block of time, probably about a week before it figures you out.
It actually doesn't give you any good parameters for the first 3 days, but and the longer you wear it, the better it will give you information. You know, so that's the idea behind it. And my point in wanting to try it out was that it gives you like a recovery percentage after you've recorded your sleep for the night. So it says, hey, like today, I'm 74% recovered, means that I'm recovered well enough to take on some strain if I wanted to work hard today, you know? And if I wake up and it says, you know, your recovery is 15% today. You've been flogging yourself.
Yeah.
It's time to maybe take the day off. Whereas before, I just would have said, I'm just tired. I'll just take it easier. Now I might be more inclined to take a day off to try to prime the engine a little bit more.
Do you worry that, like, you're going to wake up for a day that you have planned something big and you're going to look at your numbers and that's going to, like, mentally basically check you out? And that's what I noticed when I was doing my heart rate variability training, was like, it tells me I'm tired. That's why I'm going to feel tired on this bike ride. It's kind of like, if you're telling yourself this, it almost would be better to, like, ignore it until you're done with your ride and then be like, I was tired today, and it says I was going to be tired today. Or, the opposite could happen, right? Where it's like, Lance, you get 30 minutes into your bike ride and you start feeling super chipper, and you're like, I don't know what that, Whoop strap said, or I'm not going to listen to it, or I don't know. How do you block that out and not have that kind of, like, mental?
I think heart rate variability is something that a lot of experienced endurance athletes actually know innately. I'd rather almost just, like what Matt just said, use that as a validation instead of as a precursor for the day. I mean, like, if I get going on the bike and I get in through my warm up block, get into the intervals, and I'm realizing that my top end effort feels way too hard and I can't hold anything that I want to hold, right, and the variability in an over under set isn't there, my heart rate variability sucks for the day then. I know that, like neuromuscular and fatigue.
What if you could jump in, check the Whoop or whatever it's called, and it says, no, you need to just suck it up, Buttercup.
You need to suck it up.
You go up and finish your workout.
Right.
That's a good point. That would actually be probably the best check on it, is if you're mentally checked out. Well, this is the problem with the Whoop strap. So this is the problem with only training from a cardiac point of view, though. And this is why there's a lot of debate now on whether we should be training heart rate training at all, period, is because it doesn't take into account the neuromuscular fatigue too. So we're talking, like, this is a much more common topic in sports like basketball and football, where they're explosive sports. If your neuromuscular, system is not primed, neuromuscular meaning the timing of the signal from your brain to the right muscles isn't there, then you're not going to have a good interval day. Especially if you've got, let's say you're trying to lance somebody on a ride or something and Lance is not lancing like usual, that could be a neuromuscular fatigue sort of day. Now, would the Whoop strap pick that up? Would you see that in heart rate variability? I'm not so sure.
I just think it's dangerous because like, when you talk about it from a specific science point of view, you lose track of that, like, the mental effort that it takes to go do a workout. Like, all four of us have gone into a workout and been like, I feel horrible. And then somehow, like, come out the other side and been like, I crushed that workout.
Yep.
Or the opposite, where you're like, I'm going to crush this workout, and it's just not there that day. And I just think that there's a huge mental aspect to it. And I worry that if you even hint towards the fact, and this is kind of like as a coach, right? Like, if you coach 100 kids, if you tell some kid you're going to have a great race, guess what? They'll, sometimes they're like, oh, I am going to have a good race. You tell another kid, like, oh, this is a hilly course and hills really aren't your thing. They go into it and it's like, mentally, they are checked out. They're done.
Yeah.
And you never say that, of course. But, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I worry about my, because Garmin can kind of do some of this stuff. But if my Garmin tells me, you're done, you do not need to go hard today.
That's that coach telling you that this isn't your day. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but Matt,
yes,
I think things like this are just another tool that you use in your quiver, right?
Absolutely.
So like on my Garmin, every time I finish a 2 or a 3 hour ride on my Garmin, it tells me you need to take 56 hours off.
Yeah.
Garmin cracks me up with that.
Right.
First off, I would love to know where they're getting, I don't know. I'm not even going to go to that, but
you just need to look at, Lance, you just look at your watch and you say, Garmin, you're drunk. Go home.
Go back to bed, Garmin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like with this Whoop strap, it's just another tool that I can use to kind of gauge really what my heart rate is doing and how well I'm sleeping. And because I know I'm tracking it, it's making me think more about my sleep and the quality of my sleep and the amount of sleep that I'm getting. And so, all those things are going to help me recover. So, but that being said, I mean, again, it's just another tool. I've noticed that if you take like 2 days off completely, your recovery rate is at like 95%. You're like ready to roll. So going into a big race, you know, if you taper at all or a little bit, you're gonna have your recovery rate's gonna be pretty high. However, there's a couple things I don't like about it. You know, I love the technology. I love that I'm seeing, you know, I can see real numbers to kind of gauge what my recovery is, but it's another friggin' strap I have to wear on my wrist 24 hours a day.
So you have a watch and a Whoop strap?
Yeah. So my watch is on my left wrist and my Whoop strap is on my right wrist, and I feel like a dipstick. But
you're running out of space.
Yeah.
And your legs are shaved, and you are.
And my legs are shaved.
You are becoming a true dipstick.
So that's the one thing. That's one thing I don't like about it. The other thing is it's a monthly prescription. It's a monthly subscription service.
Wow.
So you don't buy the strap and it goes. It comes with an app that helps track everything. So of course you need smartphone to, you know, that it pairs with your app, and it pairs to your phone through, you know, Bluetooth, which works just fine. But it's a monthly subscription, and so you need to sign up for it for a year.
Yeah.
You know, to see kind of how it works. So those are the two things I'm not totally stoked about it, but I'm willing to give it a try to see if it really increases my level of training and fitness. Yeah. So
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just like, let's track all this stuff, and then, you know, and you have the data. The data's there, and you can always go back and look and see like how things correlate to how you're feeling and all this stuff. It's just another what did you say? Another quiver?
Quiver, yeah. Another arrow in the quiver,
and there's another tool. I think it's called the Aura Ring, and you just wear it. It's just a ring, which you might like, Lance, and it does a lot of similar stuff where it's like tracking sleep and things like that. And it does a pretty thorough job of doing a lot of sleep tracking. And so, yeah, that would be one to consider as well, you know, because then it's just a ring that you don't have to think about.
Yeah, I liked it. So, Jake, coming from you, this is, you know, I mean, somebody who is used to a very, very high level of fitness and a certain recovery protocol with that fitness, coming back from a big, serious injury, how did you have to change your idea of recovery once you were getting back on the trainer? And just, I mean, really in the last like 2-3 months, like really, how did your view of recovery change?
Well, I know what it takes to get recovered when you're at a higher level and you're training constantly, and you want to make sure that you stay sharp as long as you possibly can for as many races as you can. Because like for me, it's like during the course of a normal year, if I can knock out 30 to 40 races in a year, that's great. You know, that's good. I mean, you'll definitely ID some big races like your A races that you're going to want to really focus in on, and then you're going to build your recovery blocks around those. But coming back from an injury, that was a different beast because you had to recover from nothing. Your fitness, my fitness, was literally gone. I mean, I had to start from scratch, and so I really had to listen to my body more than anything, and just had to draw off of past experience in terms of how I felt, and just started to layer up. I was also having to pay attention to like, don't overdo it because you don't want to hurt your shoulder. And you're still dealing with an ankle to this day that I'm still dealing with this stupid ankle.
I keep on forgetting that your ankle's part of this too. I know. That's like we're so focused on the shoulder.
Broken ankle. So just paying attention to those things. And a lot of times those were my limiting factors. It wasn't that my body, you know, everything else needed a reset or a recovery block or things of that nature. So just had to ease into it. And then once I was finally able to establish a certain base again, and I started to incorporate a little bit of intensity in, I could definitely use some recovery. And I was, you know, getting into the motion now. Those recovery days or weeks or however I wanted to set them up, they weren't necessarily as long, and they weren't coming quite as frequently, but I was definitely listening to my body. I was looking at things like sleep and just how I felt in general, and looking at some of the numbers that I was generating and how I felt like after 30 minutes into a ride. That's how I was gauging when I needed my recovery. So that's kind of where it was at. And now I'm back to the point where, my recovery needs to be every 5 to 6 weeks. And coming up to the start of a season, it's going to get super sharp. And then you kind of try and reverse engineer everything so that you're getting set up and prepped for particular events. Right. And, right now I just took a recovery block and I took it calculated. I pushed it like the way that my body felt, and based on the number of weeks that I was in, I should have taken it the week prior, but I wanted to take it last week because I wanted it. Because every time I come out of a recovery block, that first week I don't get good numbers. You're always a little sluggish. Flat. Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to get that sludge part done and over with. So that's going to be this week, which I started back into yesterday, and I felt sluggish. And then going into next week, it's going to start like, all right, I don't feel quite as bad. It's starting to come around a little bit better. And then the week after that, that's usually like my golden weeks, like weeks 3, 4, and sometimes into 5. I feel really good. And then it's usually about week 6 that I'm ready for recovery blocks. So theoretically speaking, I should go to our training camp feeling pretty darn good. I'll come out of another recovery. I'll come out of another recovery week, and I'll be ready again to do that cycle again to start the start of the season when we have our first race of the season, which will be a time trial, and I'm hoping to go out there and perform really well.
Yeah.
So.
And this is where I think Jake, you nailed on the head. Where so Lance, you had mentioned that after 2 days off, that Whoop strap is going to say you're 95% recovered. But if we're talking about recovery in its relation to performance, there's that balance of you may be 95% recovered, but your system is not ready to be ticking over at a race pace over and over again. It's just like you said, like after you come off that recovery week, like you wouldn't want to go off that recovery week and then the first day back do your A race.
No,
like
you would get crushed and you would be like, what the heck happened?
Exactly. So it's almost that balance of, and I've seen some, I think Training Peaks has a system that tries to work off this.
Oh, really?
They measure your generalized, it's like it measures your generalized fitness, recovery, and fatigue. And it tries to come up with a number that's saying like, this is when you're primed for a race.
Training stress score.
Well, they have a couple of different scoring systems. They have training stress score. They have accumulated fatigue. And then they have another like long-term training effect.
Yeah, and that's the chart I'm thinking of, because it's this chart that's got, it's I think the long-term training effect is the one where you kind of want obviously that to be high. When you're going for your big race.
That one I think is kind of like looking at your TSS over 4 months. And then accumulated fatigue is more like 3 weeks or something that's looking at. But I used to know those numbers. I did do a YouTube video talking about some of that stuff.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, because I think that's kind of the formula that I think the endurance sports physiology world is like trying to grab and understand. It's like, oh, if we can just get some quotient.
Kind of liken it to like to photography if you want to. I mean, you have to get all of these different form factors and get them to kind of sync up so you get a really nice picture. So if you're taking a look at like your aperture and your shutter speed and your ISO and all these other things, you're trying to get all of these so that you can get a perfect, crisp, clean picture. You need to do the same thing with your training so that you can get yourself really dialed in.
That was such an awesome little metaphor for all like the photography nerds out there. That was awesome.
for me and Matt.
That was so perfect. That was so perfect.
The exposure triangle.
Exactly.
No, but that's a really good. I mean, like there's no perfect picture, just like there's no perfect taper. So, but it is interesting because I still see there's still coaches out there getting paid money. I'll just talk about the triathlon world. There's coaches out there getting paid money that still do this 4-week build, 5th week recovery, 4-week build, 5th week recovery. All right, your Ironman's coming up, 3-week build, 2-week taper, race the next day. Yeah. It's like what? Like why are we still training that way? That doesn't make there's no credible research that says that is an effective way to race. And I understand the idea behind, I'm not looking to go that fast. But people are lying to themselves when they say that, because who doesn't want to see a little bit faster number on your race day that you just paid $800 for and trained 12 months?
Yeah.
You want to be performing as well as you can. And we've scared people into thinking like, whoa, back off. Don't overdo it before race. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Rest 14 days out before these big races.
Right.
It's like, I mean, the way that Jake has timed this taper going into a big training camp, which is, I mean, a big, training load right there. You don't go in off the taper week. You taper and then you do a short build before so that you're primed and ready to go on that day.
Yeah.
There's some weird, there's some really interesting effects too of having like these like big training effects from a big block of training, like after the potentially after the training, camp, that we would see this spike in performance. And that is where I feel like the science is super wishy-washy.
It is, yeah.
How do you get that? Like, could you do that before a big race? Potentially, you could.
Yeah.
And actually see some really cool numbers. I mean,
yeah, that's tough because that's not always guaranteed.
No.
You can come back and be completely fried.
You're messing with fire right there.
Yeah.
So I'll use before I got another question for Lance here, but I'll talk about triathlete. So Christian Blumenfeld, just recently there was something interesting that happened. So Christian Blumenfeld is he's probably one of the best triathletes in the world right now. I'll say top 5. He's incredible. And he had 70.3 Dubai recently, which was this last weekend. He came in, he posted all of his training.
Yep.
Did a crazy 2-week block. Like, I mean, just numbers through the roof. He was training 33, 34 hours a week of just intensity. And he's a training, like workhorse. He's done this stuff before. He goes into Dubai thinking that he's in amazing fitness. I mean, the way he's posted, he's a little bit cocky, but I really love the guy. But like, he's ready to kill it. Goes into that race during the swim, both quads cramp up, gets out of the water in transition, can barely walk, has to get over, spends 2 hours in the med tent getting titrated, and everything. Now, he's Norwegian, so you could argue, oh, it's the heat, but he was training in heat. His training camp was in heat.
There's something weird about like a lot of running / biking and then going into some water.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm hesitant. Like a lot of you guys do this where you'll come swim with me or whatever, and you're like, just did a 12-mile run, and now I'm gonna come swim with Matt, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. Like my legs might cramp, and that might be the end of my week. But
yeah. I mean, that's just going to what we were just talking about. If he maybe would have backed off like 5%, would he have had the greatest race of his life? Who knows? I mean, you don't know, but it's a fine line to walk when you're playing that game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Hey, real quick on the YouTubes.
On the tubes.
In our live chat here. Jesse had a question for you a little while back ago. I just want to press pause and rewind back. He asked you, what do you relate that soreness to when you were talking about just general...
The acidity soreness?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where... This is actually a really cool, kind of debatable thing, but I'll talk about it from a neuro point of view.
Sure.
And that's only because I'm taking a class right now where we're learning a lot about the basal ganglia and the amygdala. Just to give, the amygdala is what makes us feel things, basically. Fear, hunger can also be, it's very much connected to your hormonal system and also to our conscious thoughts. So there is, the amygdala is a natural tendencies to protect us. It gives us emotions to protect us. So there's a theory out there that actual burning sensation that we get is actually an emotional feeling. So it's not that we're like directly feeling the acidity, if that makes sense. Same idea that like pain is more what they, driven from how we perceive what's going on.
Right.
There is a theory out there, and this is, like I said, a theory. I'm sure people will rip me apart on this, but I really do agree with that because I see it on a daily basis in the clinic. People's perception of what's going on very much affects how they feel. So our body obviously does not want you to work itself to death. Like, our body's main goal is to be as comfortable as possible. Now, obviously, for us to develop and grow as athletes, you need to be very uncomfortable at times. But the amygdala is what drives a lot of these feelings of protectiveness. So, okay, my legs are starting to burn. That thought that comes into your head of like, oh, this interval's pretty long. I don't think I can make it.
Yeah.
But we've all been to this place. What happens when a minute in it starts to hurt and you keep on going? You keep on going, right?
Yeah.
If that acidity really did hit certain levels and shut you down, we would shut down during intervals a lot more.
Yeah, it's funny when you can talk yourself through those. You can go for a hell of a lot longer than you thought you could at a much more of a breakneck pace. Yeah. And then you'll get to a point where it's just like things will stop working. You're like, that's what I was searching for.
That's the physiological breakdown.
Exactly. Yeah. That's your body truly telling you. So I totally agree with that. Yeah. And for me, it's like, all right, I have to start channeling thoughts. I have to start focusing in on things.
The 10-second countdown sort of thing.
That, or just like, all right, what am I doing this for? And start to like envision, like I'll turn something that's not a race. I'll turn an interval set into a race, and I'll like be visualizing a finish to a race. And I'm telling myself, you got to go hard, because if you don't, someone's gonna come past you. And you start visualizing that wheel coming up on you, and you push yourself a little bit harder. And I can't tell you how many times that's played out really well. And then after that, like the whole body's like, total yard sale.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Done, so
But yeah, I think a lot of that burning sensation, I'll throw it out there. I think it's very neurochemically driven.
Yeah.
I would say it's neurochemically driven more than, like, yes, of course, there's some explanations at a cellular level of what's going on. But I think that burning sensation comes way before your body actually should be shutting down. Yeah. And I mean, you hear it with military guys all the time. What's the saying? Like, when you feel like you can't go any further, you have 25% more or something like that. There's some like Navy SEAL saying or something like that. But I think what they're talking about is actually from a pure physiology point of view. Yeah.
All right. So with respect to recovery, let's talk about just like the next day, like afterwards, or even post ride or post run or swim. How are you guys recovering? Are you guys, do you pay special certain attention to the foods that you're eating? Do you go straight into like taking a nap? What are some of the things that you guys do? And maybe we can hear from Lance first, since he's been a little quiet.
You know, I always try to rehydrate right after my rides and then get some kind of protein into my system. Those are the two things that I kind of try to do. I am not a napper, so I hardly ever nap, unless I'm on a live aboard scuba dive boat, and then I nap 3 times a day.
Oh,
yes, those are the main things I try to do, is get some good protein in me and try to rehydrate after my rides, and then I just kind of go about the rest of my day. I do not think I'm very good at recovery.
Who at this table is like, I mean, we're all 4 of us here are talking about recovery. I wouldn't classify any 4 of us as like excellent at recovering.
Well, none of us really have that opportunity to like nap.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, Jake, I don't think any of us.
No.
I
only take naps when I'm sick.
I know Jake doesn't nap because he was supposed to be napping when he was recovering from this, and he wasn't even able to nap then.
I think that the one thing that could probably help any of us recover, or anyone listening to this podcast recover, is sleeping more.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like you look at all these studies and it's like protein after hard workouts. Yep. That looks pretty good. Like there's all these things that look pretty good, but the real science, like sleeping is like the number one thing.
I think I referenced that many podcasts ago. But I was talking about, it was cool because somebody had linked that study to some, they linked the study to some Normatec thing.
Oh,
which is so Normatec is recovery boots.
Yeah. So compression boots are on my list of things to ask you about. Yeah. And it's super selfish because I'm going to do a video about it. But I want like your full scoop on recovery boots. Recovery boots, yeah. So you mentioned Normatec.
Does anybody else here use those? Lance, have you used the recovery boots before?
I'm sure he has at a race.
I never once.
Never once.
Put them on.
Did you ever wear compression tights even back in your Ironman days?
Yeah.
No. I used to use a Compex muscle stim machine to pump out lactic acid. Mm-hmm. But I haven't slapped one of those things on for like 5 years.
Yeah. One of our teammates brought some of those compression boot things. It's not really a boot. It goes all the way up your leg into your pelvis. But he brought them to our training camp last year, and he also brought the little E-stim unit. I can't remember what the one is that they sell to the general population off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody might chime in and tell us that.
It might be the one Lance was talking about, Compacts or something.
Lance Armstrong just
he's on
like sponsored one recently too. There's a bunch of different types.
There's one that was doing a lot of direct marketing to cyclists, and I use those, and I actually quite like them. I didn't get a chance to hop in the other ones, and people were kind of wishy-washy about whether or not they thought it was something that was worth their time. So I didn't bother jumping in line to use those.
Yeah,
but
my opinion on all those things. So I treat with E-stim. Like, I mean, I'll use E-stim. Yeah. Here's my thing is that if you mentally buy into any of these recovery techniques, period, any of them, they work. If you mentally buy into them, because here's the thing is recovery's main goal is you got to decrease the stress response during your recovery period. Yep. So why is sleep so good? Well, generally because when you're sleeping, you're not super stressed out.
Right.
So what's not good recovery? What I do every single day, which is
go to work,
swim hard in the morning, work a very stressful 12-hour job, and then run a half marathon at the end of the day. Yeah. So that would not be what I would say would be like a good recovery. But there's a lot of good science behind. Obviously, if you're look at the Tour de France. What do all those riders do right after those stages? I know it blows people's minds what they do.
They hop on the trainer.
They hop on the trainer. Now, what they're doing is they're spinning against no resistance. No, I mean, they're just sitting there spinning their legs.
Yeah.
What is that doing?
Probably
It's just
still putting on more watts than me.
probably, yeah. I was gonna say they're still putting out more than my FTP.
But still, you're right. They're spinning out. I mean, they're rolling through the motion and they're moving their muscles and they're moving. I mean,
it's non-stressful. They're sitting there joking around with their buddies. They're hydrating. So just like Lance, you said, they're hydrating. But I don't see, from a physiology point of view, any difference between that and a Normatec boot. That's my opinion. That Normatec boot and that E-stim is just creating a muscular contraction and a...
Well, the boots don't even create a muscular contraction. They're even...
More of a manual contraction. Yeah, they're more using a manual contraction.
Yeah, so, it just starts distally and it just kind of works its way up.
Right. And they use them in hospitals for people with circulation problems.
Lymphatic issues,
Right.
Yeah, that part makes sense. But
and then...
I don't think any pro cyclist has too much. No, that's a lie. Some of them do actually. Some of them do get some vascular issues during the tour, but that's the other side of the spectrum. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so then they go back to the hotel. What happens then?
Sleeping their butts off.
Nutrition and a massage.
Well, that too, yeah.
The massage too, but then you're right. They go and sleep 9 hours then. Yeah. So it's funny because
the numbers on like massages, like there's not they've tried to look for studies to see because what they're looking for is increased performance by doing these XYZ, whether that's like compression boots or massage, and none of them like have shown.
Well, they don't beat sleep. They definitely don't beat sleep.
Sleep is the winner by far.
A lot of times though, when you go into that recovery mode of going through massage, you get super relaxed, and that does make you want to go sleep, and it does like take the edge off. So that could be.
It could improve sleep. I'm with it, and anything that gets. This is why I'm saying, like, all these recovery techniques, I'm never going to say one of them, like, oh, no, that's BS. No, don't go do it. No, like, if it gets you in a relaxed state to now all of a sudden get 8 solid hours of sleep, do it. Yeah. Like, that's perfect. If reading a book does that to you, then just read books in the evening. Like,
What about supplements? Do any of you guys take supplements?
I only take D3, and that's only since I moved out here.
I kind of have like some things that I'm interested in taking and stuff like that, and I always forget.
That's
like,
my problem right there. Is I forget about the damn things.
I mean,
buy the best supplement ever.
No, it's not that. It's like I want to make sure that like this time of year, I think vitamin D could be potentially important for me, and I always forget to take that. I really should probably take some of that, and then like potentially iron and magnesium I think could potentially help as well. And I have some at home. It's in the top shelf, and I forget about it. So I don't really think that supplements are important. I don't necessarily think that they're horrible or bad. A lot of people are like, yeah, that's a waste of money. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. It's super hard to know. I think vitamin D potentially, if you're lacking vitamin D, there could be some problems there. So
what about just replenishing, say, your glycogen stores or replenishing...
I think we all do a pretty good job of that.
On a hard workout day, I will often hit like a protein shake. I've been doing less of that just because I've got some other blood issues and I'm worried about spiking my glucose levels, and so I'm trying to do like less of that kind of like protein shake after workouts. But
I'm just eating peanuts now after workouts.
Yeah, peanuts are great.
I come from a background of just always relying on food first, and a supplement is exactly that. It is a supplement to when you cannot get food in you. So I generally will lean towards that. I do have, and for me, being busy and you get home and if you're gone for 2 or 3 or 4 hours on a bike ride, the last thing you can do is go just make yourself this big nice meal and then go lay down and take a nap after stretching and doing all this stuff. And like wife looks at you, she's like, we got stuff to do. So and if you do that, then you'll catch a lot of flack for it later on. So if you're on the run, like I'll go throw together a recovery shake or drink or something of that nature, and that will work all right. I think that's really the only time I get into that. I put a lot more time, energy, and effort into the food that I eat prior to a big ride or a big race, and the stuff that I'm going to have on the bike as opposed to afterwards. And maybe that's a fault of mine. Maybe I could do better if I was a little bit more sharp on, tossing down
like a meal prep sort of stuff.
Very
maybe
clean. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just like have it ready to go.
Exactly.
Almost. Yeah,
for a meal or a supplement for that matter, because there are some good supplements out there that you can take.
I think that I think we don't know. I think the real answer is we have no idea.
The
study on supplements is horrible.
It
right?
is.
I mean, like
so that's only problem with there's not enough like credentialing of this stuff or like
it's a mess.
So like a lot of that stuff that you spend a lot of money, especially the protein powder stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and this is from guys who know this a lot better than me, because I'll completely admit I know nothing about the supplement, where I have stayed away from it and I don't do anything with supplements, period.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's a slippery slope, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't decide to spend my money on that. Not that I'm saying that it is wrong that people do, but I just decided, I'm like, I'm not going to take the time to do the research on this. Yeah. And I kind of know what I need nutritionally, and I just get it through food as much as I can.
Yeah. Sometimes too, if you break down the cost of what you're paying for that supplement, you can get yourself some pretty quality food that tastes pretty darn good.
Oh my God,
as opposed to chugging down some
nice butternut squash with that.
Yeah, I don't eat red meat, and so I sometimes worry that I might be lacking.
You don't eat red meat?
I haven't had red meat in like 12 years.
Oh, we gotta talk
or
about
something.
that. 12 years?
Yeah,
Really?
12 years. Like not even a bite. Like not a bite of. I miss hamburgers. There's a lot of stuff I miss, but like I sometimes worry like maybe I'm missing some iron, maybe I'm missing some protein.
This is where we can bring Lance in. Lance, do you want to talk about your red meat diet for a second?
It's all red meat.
I'm gonna have a steak in about 20 minutes.
I was about to say, Lance, how much red meat do you eat in a week?
No, I probably have a couple of meals of red meat a week. Probably 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a steak and wash it down with a steak.
Yeah. Lance, double down on the steaks for me, because I have not had one in a long time.
The stakes are high.
I miss
it.
Matt,
would you ever consider going back? I mean, is there a reason that you've never gone back to red meat?
I alluded earlier that my blood levels have got some other issues and things like that. So I feel like it's been a long time. I think about 12 years ago when I lived in Michigan, got some blood work done and was like super high cholesterol. And I'm like, what the heck, man? I'm like a legit, runner. Like, what's going on? And so I cut out a whole bunch of stuff like red meat. And at the time I cut out like a ton of different other foods and things like that. And so I have like this list of things that I just don't eat. And my numbers went down. And then, eventually when I started getting into like Ironman training, numbers went down a little bit more. And since then my numbers have gone up, but I think it's one of those things where it's just like, once I said no to this, it was not a big problem. And so would I consider going back on the wagon? Absolutely. I don't have like moral issues. I mean, maybe there are some animals that we shouldn't eat, like, but like, I don't know. I would go for a steak. Like at some point, like maybe after Whistler, Canada, maybe I'll.
Oh, we're going to get a steak after Whistler.
Like, that would be fun.
Lance is coming with us, and Lance, you're making steaks for us.
Yeah, I mean,
hearing Matt talk about his cholesterol issues, I was worried about that because I eat a lot of red meat. I salt everything I eat. And so actually just last week I went and had blood work done and had my cholesterol level checked because I'm going to be 49 years old this year. And I thought that's something I should know.
Yeah.
My cholesterol is 178. So I was
good,
fine.
Good for you.
Yeah. I was still in the decent range. So
mine's like
my body
40 or something.
Really?
It.
Yeah.
God, that's surprising. See, I wonder if there's a genetic component to that, Matt.
Yeah.
There's got what's your heritage like? What countries roughly?
Oh, so Irish, and French, I think is the kind of background. But like, I mean, I'm one of 3 brothers. All of us have high cholesterol. Like my dad, it's like it's totally genetic. Like,
so,
and I get
so your
that.
body's just more
really,
adapt to function. Like if my cholesterol was up there, I would be in trouble. But that's
and here's the thing: is like there, some people that. It's not all black and white. Like just because you have high cholesterol doesn't automatically mean that you're going to have cardiovascular issues.
Yep.
You
can have low cholesterol and still have cardiac issues. Yeah.
So I think that it's one of those things that you worry about a little bit. I think my body's good at holding on to cholesterol, and now I'm looking at my sugar levels, and they're not all messed up too. So I'm just a mess. So I'm trying to do some
but you took those numbers. You took those numbers before you've hit this last 8-9 week period, right?
Well, yes, and I'm actually due like this week to go get some blood work done, and
your training has come back normalized. You've dropped 10 pounds. I guarantee those blood numbers are going to look a lot better.
They will, because I'll go into the blood work on like a bit of a fast, and my numbers will get like crushed down.
Yeah,
and the doctors are gonna be like, "Oh, I don't understand why this happened." I'm like, "Well, I've talked to Jake a little bit about this, but like." I think that there's some things about fasting, either intermittent fasting or like regular fasting, that have some benefits, especially for someone like me that potentially has some not so beautiful blood. murky blood.
No, it's okay. So. Just really, really high hematocrit blood that helps you run fast, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's some weird stuff about red blood cells and A1C levels, and I don't know if you've gotten into all of this. Like,
yeah. This is, I mean, we obviously being a physical therapist, we had to go through education on a lot of this and just red flags and everything, but it's not something I have like an expert knowledge of. But
and even then, it's like I worry too sometimes, where it's like, okay, well, some of these numbers are red flags, but I don't feel like there's a scientific consensus about a lot of this stuff.
No.
So it's
there's blurred lines everywhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So before we put this one to rest, there's a reason why we recover, and that's so that we don't become overtrained. I mean, that's probably the biggest driving factor behind that, besides the fact that we feel crappy. But we don't want to get into that overtrained state, because that's where things can really start to go sideways. Anything in particular you guys want to talk about? I know that we've done this on podcasts way back when about just overtraining in general. But is there anything that you guys really are mindful of, or things that you know that you're starting to get to that point that really start to rear its ugly head when you're going through your training phase before? And this is honestly, this is one thing that I worry about with Evan over here. Mr. I just trained 25 hours and I know am crushing workout after workout after workout.
Yeah.
My number one indicator is how I'm doing in workouts. And it's like, and I almost don't use like what kind of mood I'm in. I don't use kind of, like I know a lot of people can look at sleep patterns and like the way when they wake up mornings, like your heart rate will spike if you're overtraining, basically, if you look at kind of resting heart rate stuff, which I think is an awesome indicator. I just don't use it. I use specifically like numbers I'm hitting in workouts.
Yeah.
So
that's a big one for me too. But here's a little list. Resting heart rate changes.
Resting heart rate changes.
Okay. You guys have insatiable thirsts ever?
I have insatiable hungers. Wait, I will definitely say insatiable hungers.
Is it LaCroix bubbly water or Costco? The answer is yes.
Quench your thirst with a nice LaCroix.
Extended periods of muscle soreness.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard there's some track coaches out there that will even, and Matt, you may have heard this more than me, that'll tell their runners like you should never be sore days after runs. I have heard this from like top end track coaches before. They tell their runs like you should never achieve soreness. I don't know.
I
mean,
know.
I would completely disagree with that, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who could give an explanation. But
I think there's some potential of saying like, hey, if you take an athlete that's running 100 miles a week or whatever it is, and you take them through certain sets and things like that, they may not have that traditional soreness because their body's kind of past that.
Yeah,
you would be one of those athletes that I would be like, hey, Evan, do you get sore?
Or
sometimes not really.
We'll use. I really don't anymore. I'll tell you that this swim this morning, I woke up this morning feeling. It's funny you mentioned insatiable thirst. Drank a ton of vitamin. I drank 3 vitamin waters this morning. I was very thirsty. Wow. Legs are fine. Yeah. Feel great. Get into the pool feeling great. Stroke feels good. Everything feels good. Can't breathe to save my life. Yeah. Like lungs not feeling good. Basically the entire swim. But arms and legs wise and form wise,
fine. Yeah.
Held it the entire time. But then we do hundreds at the end and Matt blows me out of the water. So what does that mean? I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for like you did have a harder weekend than I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a hard weekend for me personally, but you put in a ridiculous. Your weekend is like my entire week of work.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'll tell the truth. When I know I need to get a recovery week, this is gonna sound so bad that I'm even saying this. Nobody take this advice. I wait till I get sick.
Yeah.
Really?
Your body's like.
And my sick lasts for, and I'll say sick in quotes. I get sick for 12 to 24 hours, and my body knocks it out.
See, I'd rather be like 5-10% undertrained as opposed to getting into that situation where you're clearly like 5 to 10% overtrained. I'd rather come up a little bit short. And I've done this
for years and years through the winters. Yeah. Like last year was the first time I didn't do that style of training during the winter. And I feel like even though I had a good season last year, I feel like I could have, I feel like when I overtrain for long blocks, my body builds up adaptations that I carry over into the season very well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, I do not overtrain in season.
Yep.
In season, I get specific and I cap myself out. Yeah. But right now, I basically load on intensity and volume until I crack.
Yeah.
So
come talk to me in like 10 to 15 years and tell me if you're still doing that.
Oh, there's going to be some changes. Don't
fun stuff. I'm going to run through a quick few more of these. How about like insomnia? Do you guys ever deal with insomnia?
I've seen that happen basically in a lot of weird ways where you wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, and a lot of that has to do with the type of training and stuff.
Yeah.
Lance, how's your sleep? Because I know Jake has gone through this. I know Jake has talked very openly on the podcast during this recovery process where
it was the worst for.
I mean, insomnia would be a light word for what was going on. It was you were not sleeping.
Yeah. It's not that I couldn't, but yeah.
I haven't struggled a whole lot with sleep. I find that during times of when I'm not training very much, I don't sleep very well.
I would agree with you, Lance. I think it's once you take yourself out of that normal habit.
Yeah. Have you found that you're sleeping better now that you're in this quasi-retired, just gallivanting around the world riding bicycles? Do you find that you're sleeping better now than you did when you were managing multiple practices?
Yeah, I am sleeping better. That's for sure, and a few more hours than I was before. Good. That's for sure.
During Ironman training for you, Lance, how many hours a night were you sleeping?
Oh, 5 probably at the most.
Man.
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah.
Lance, that's why you didn't go to Kona. It had nothing to do with your racing. It had everything to do with
I missed it by a couple of seconds. You're like, you missed it by a couple hours of sleep.
Yeah, I think you missed it by a couple of years of not
getting sleep. It could have
to
do with the fact that I rode the bike way too hard and couldn't run. There's that too.
Yeah. Here's another one. How about personality changes or even bouts of like feeling depressed?
Absolutely. This is the one that personally I use more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I notice it in myself, but I do have some very good people close to me who make it very aware, like, you're being a bad person right now. You need to not go and train at this moment.
Captain A-hole, take a day off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, Matt, you've never been an a-hole in your entire life. You don't even know what that is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
How about frequent sickness, Mr. Evan Price?
There it is.
Yeah.
That is a biggie. If you're getting sick often, maybe we need to work in a little bit more recovery, like scheduled recovery, as opposed to like, oops, I just puked everywhere. Shivers and
I start to realize now when I'm getting to that point, though. So I think I'm going to do a little bit better job of cutting it off.
Good.
Like right before then.
I think that you'll have better end results.
Probably.
That's just my 2 cents. How about loss of concentration? Do you guys find that you guys are sometimes having a hard time staying focused?
What? I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. Increased.
I like that. Moving on. That was perfect.
Was that not concentrating just now? Increased injury. Do you guys find that you get injured more often?
I'm not even going to talk about this because I'm superstitious.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, right? Because
knocking on some wood here.
There's the for running, right? There's the classic like, oh, you run too much, you get a stress fracture, blah blah blah. And my gut feeling is it's probably increasing volume by too much at the same time, as opposed to like just a particular specific number that you're hitting. I don't think it actually has to do with that, but but yeah, injuries are real.
Oh yeah,
gotcha. 2 more. These are probably 2 big ones for me. We'll say the first one is decreased motivation. I definitely will find decreased motivation if I'm not having fun riding a bike.
Yeah,
I just take a look back at like the prior couple of weeks. That will usually tell me why.
Too much.
Yeah, it's just too much. You need to like schedule some time off. We need to go just have a fun ride, stop, take some pictures.
You're just like, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. So if I find my motivation slipping, and this is going to sound ridiculous because I never thought I would say this. I used, while I was going through this recovery process, there were days I'm looking forward to coming down here and sitting on the trainer to ride for 2 hours. That's just that's not right. That's I should be checked for that alone. It's like, I feel like I'm sick in the head for saying that, but I was motivated to come down here to get my work done because I was getting progress and I was starting to feel like my old self again, and I was able to plug into different things that I was I have been enjoying while riding on the trainer. And then I'll get to days where I'm like, I just don't want to do that, and I'm like, it's like classic avoidance. I'm just like trying to do anything and everything other than what I need to go do. And I'm like, all right, I need to schedule some time off. And sure enough, that was it. So how about you, Lance?
Yeah, I seem to be more cranky if I'm not training. So, or maybe it's because during my whole career I was just always on the edge of cranky anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's all just seems like butter and smooth
Well,
right now.
Lance, for you, it's very much built into your schedule now, isn't it? So, I mean, if you're not riding, that's like part of your day that just is now a chunk missing, right?
Yeah, that's probably pretty true.
Or do you find though that you're losing motivation? I mean, every day you get to go do something that's pretty cool. Just about every day. Are you finding days that you're just like, I just don't feel like riding the bike today?
There are days when that happens, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
You know, because if I'm like not feeling like going out, then I'll take the mountain bike out instead of the road bike, or
Change up the scenery.
Take the gravel bike out instead of the road bike. You
There
know,
you go.
so
We are all so jealous right now. Yeah,
All right, the last one here, halted progress. That one's a no-brainer. I mean, if your numbers aren't going up, your
Matt
times
already
aren't
mentioned
getting
that
better.
one. Yeah,
So-
I like that.
Yeah.
That's
So if you guys are dealing with any of those things, good chance that you need to look at adding some better recovery or more recovery, just recovery in general, into your workout regimen. So,
yep.
All right. That is a wrap for recovery. Let's get into one last thing. Lance, you got any one last things for us?
My one last thing is I'm just looking forward to training camp, I guess. Trying to be ready for there. I'm going to go into it not rested at all. So we'll see what happens.
I think you're going to be okay.
We should have the three of you do different tapers into this, and then we'll just do our own little case study and see which one works.
Yeah, I have a feeling Lance's taper is going to be the training camp. He's just like, oh man, we're only doing
only 20
miles.
hours a week. Yeah,
only 80 miles today for our morning. What do we do in the afternoon, guys?
Yeah, exactly.
One last thing, Evan.
Going completely away from cycling now. Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl. I'm gonna say a very unpopular opinion right now. I think that's awesome. Sure. This guy winning again and again is he's like 41 years old right now.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this was, I mean, their defense is what won that Super Bowl, but could you imagine if he plays for like another 5 or 6? We have a 45-year-old guy playing in the Super Bowl and winning.
It can happen. I mean, he's doing all the right stuff. He's recovering, right?
I told my
that
wife
would be another one to talk about. Yeah.
I told my wife, I was like, I could be a quarterback. I mean, I could be a quarterback right now in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look how old I am.
You'd even have a couple more years. You could develop into it. Yeah.
Tons of time. I got time to decide if I want to do that.
But yeah, I'm starting to like Tom Brady more and more as people hate him more and more.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of nice to see him after the game getting a little emotional and hugging teammates and you just saying the right stuff and doing the right things. But I don't know. I'm just so freaking sick of the Patriots. So.
I think he's a great teammate and his teammates clearly really like him. I think it's just easy to hate somebody who wins as much as he does.
Yeah. So what were you going to say, Lance?
The only thing that I like about it is that I feel like I'm witnessing history.
Yeah.
But beyond that, no.
Ryan just said Evan's ruining the podcast.
Yes. Oh, good. Our listeners just dropped him down right there.
Oh. All right. Matt, one last thing?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say. I'm always posting videos on the YouTube channel. And I posted a track workout, I think, last, which I don't know if... Yeah, it'd be perfect for someone like Evan or someone like to try out. It was a 10
I've got that on my list now.
Yeah, 10 by 500.
Because I did a 10 by 4 a little bit ago, so I got to bump up to 10 by 5.
How it feels. I think one of the things I noticed when you do workouts is that you do more of a standing recovery type stuff. And
I've actually taken your advice. So now my recovery is a 200 jog recovery.
Perfect. Yeah, try that. And then for this 500, it's even harder. You have to basically like roll across the grass. It's a weird workout, but you kind of want to move pretty quickly to get started on the next one. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And so I'll probably post a couple more videos. I did record. I recorded a whole bunch of stuff of like us building bikes.
Yep.
And this was basically the charity ride that we did. So I have recordings of the actual charity ride, which was a very cold day.
Yep.
Basically an ugly sweater charity ride where we raised enough money for about 30 to 30 or plus bikes for kids.
20 plus bikes.
20 plus bikes for kids.
Yeah. We ended up spending a little bit more money on getting a little bit nicer bikes.
They are so nice.
And it was based on the number of kids that they had identified for us. I'm like, all right, so we've got a few less kids. Let's spend a little bit more money and give them just a killer bike and a killer helmet and a bike lock. And yeah.
So. Well, I really want to put that video out on YouTube. I'm just, I don't know if we want to do like the bike giveaway or what.
Just real quick, an update on that. We've got 2 more bikes that are coming in from Cannondale for a couple of kids that are a little bit older, and we're still waiting on those, and we're still waiting on all of the helmets that are coming in from Giro.
Okay.
Gotcha. I think we were tentatively going to try and go do the turn the bikes over to the kids on February 9th. I don't think that's going to happen now.
Maybe after the training camp?
Yeah, it's going to have to be after the training camp, which should actually be better because it should be better weather.
Oh, so the last thing you want to do is supposed to be snowing next weekend. So the kids are going to be getting
the last
out.
thing you want to do is give this kid this killer bike and say, yeah, go ride outside and it's 40 degrees, dumping rain and snow and sleet and all that other fun stuff. So
as we're one last thing, as we say this, it's snowing outside now.
If you're watching the YouTube live stream, you can look out the window in the back. You can see the snowflakes falling right now. So not ideal for kids to go ride bikes.
I talked trash on Mother Nature there, and in an hour and a half, she's now dumping snow. So.
So, but yeah, we're coming up on that soon. So that will be the last part of the video, right? Is actually turning the bikes over to the kids.
That's what I'd like. I mean, we did a good job. I mean, we have lots of stuff. I could probably make 3 videos out of it. I mean, it's pretty cool.
There you go. Yeah, it should be fun. So, cool. That's it.
That's it.
Cool. I have 2 last things.
Well, come on, man. It's one last thing. It's right in the title.
I have one last positive thing, one last negative thing.
There you go.
Okay. There you go. My one last positive thing, we've added quite a few new juniors to our team for this year, and I am so stoked on that. And we've got some strong ones to boot. Nice. So we've got some kids that are going to come out, and they're going to absolutely crush it. And I've got a lot of stuff that'll be announced over the next 2 to 3 weeks for more junior stuff that's going to really help us blow out this whole juniors program here in the Pacific Northwest.
So you have some announcements coming up in a...
Yeah, so for our formal juniors program and some stuff that I'm going to be doing to formally work with these kids leading into the summer and then the fall for cross season, and then like a whole off-season winter training program, and then getting these kids prepped and ready to go for the road season next year. So what I'm going to do is work with a lot of the kids that are currently on the team right now for the road season to kind of make sure that we iron out some kinks, make sure that we do that correct, so that we're not dealing with kids out on the road that should be out there or whatnot. So we're going to come up with a beta test system for getting these kids ready to race on the road and whatnot. With the kids we have now, and I know that they're a little bit more experienced, so that should be good. And then we're going to have a bunch of kids get started with us for short track for the summer, which is a lot of mountain biking and some cross work. And then they can do a little bit of the PIR road racing stuff out there with some of the junior kids. And then going into the fall, cyclocross, baby. We're going to get these kids racing their cyclocross bikes.
This is exciting
and
for
then
them.
A whole off-season training program for these kids to get their bases built up. We'll bring some more kids on and really get some more kids to buy into racing road in 2020. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
We'll need to have a podcast where we bring on some of the kids.
Yeah,
they're so much more exciting than us. We're boring as heck. People are tired of hearing us. Let's bring on some youth.
Yeah, we'll do that. So we've done a lot of good stuff, bringing on a lot of sponsors to help out Dialed Cycling, and we've kind of built a little bit of a war chest. I'm not gonna lie. We've got some good funds that are going to be available for us to develop our juniors, which is something that I'm really keen on. So I'm excited about what's coming up. My one little rant: Costco, get your act together. I have gone there like the last 3 times to get my Costco Kirkland sparkling water, and it's been sold out and gone.
That's because Lance keeps on getting all of it. Yeah.
So I've been forced to buy this LaCroix stuff, which is okay. I just like the
crap.
The Costco stuff is so much better.
I think I like the LaCroix. I think
the one that you brought today, though, I'm going to hand it to you. That's good. But the Costco stuff, you get like twice as much for less money, and it tastes good.
And I just got the Polar seltzer waters.
Okay. Those aren't bad.
Yeah. I will compare them. Yeah, because I haven't tried the Polar before, so I'm trying it. How does it compare to Kirkland?
I like the Kirkland a little bit more.
A little bit better? Okay. I got the orange vanilla.
This is supposed to be for the victory of the weight loss challenge.
Yeah.
So we're dipping into our funds ahead of time.
I'm celebrating your win, Matt.
Well, no, next week.
There you go.
Hopefully.
I'm sure if I put you on a scale right now, you'd be done. So,
yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening. If you guys want to chime in, come visit us at our Facebook page at Dialed Podcast. You can check us out on Instagram. We'll be posting more stuff up there at Dialed Podcast. And you can email any of us, our first names, Jake, Matt, Evan, Lance at Dial Podcast. Any one of us, shoot us an email. Love to hear from you. If you guys have got some stuff that you'd like us to talk about, by all means, chime in. And you can check us out whenever we are doing these live streams too. You can jump in and be a part of the conversation and lend your 2 cents. That'd be fun to hear from you. So we appreciate you guys all coming back. You guys, as always, favorite part of the week, sitting down at the table with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Lance, you drive safe.
Thanks.
Have fun down there. Say hi to everybody down there. Everybody else, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.